So back in October of 2019, Anthem launched its 1.5 update and a season called The Season of the Skulls. This also seemed to bring back the Cataclysm content, which originally was very much hyped as endgame aspirational content when Anthem first launched, or rather failed to launch back in February. And so at this time I decided to go back and check it out and see what it all was about. And while it has its charms, the base core experience still requires the same upgrades and reworks that it has long needed. And so I concluded that the development team needs to really communicate that they are still working on this massive update and clue us into what is going on and if Anthem is still worth our time and investment. And thankfully, just a few weeks ago, it's actually been said that BioWare is hard at working on Anthem 2.0, or aka Anthem Next. And while the details are sparse about what they have in the works, I wanted to provide everyone with an update on my thoughts to let you know if this answers the question, is Anthem worth it in 2020? And so our simple answer is, it depends. For me, it's more than enough to actually jump back in and unlock some coin and enjoy this game. And by enjoy, let me be real clear. This is a very isolating experience right now. So I don't see myself hitting this hard anytime soon. But as deals like Black Friday and the holiday seasons roll out, I want to address those of you who've been asking if this game is worth it for $5 to $15. And while I'm going to still and continue to advise caution, I personally have really enjoyed this game. I see the potential in it, and that's the key word, potential. Now, I've had fun with this game, and the different javelins really personally nailed it for me. I really enjoyed all 4 javelins, but it still pains me thinking about what this game could or should have been. For better or worse, it was really sold to us as an unfinished product. But personally, with the story and the single playthrough, there really is enough content and gameplay to distract you for enough hours, based off of what you have going on, mind you. So again, I'm advising caution. But $5, it seems like a very low risk if you're willing to take it. Now, hopefully this will help give you some ideas and allow you to start providing feedback to what you want this game to become. Because while the development team is hard at working on what Anthem 2.0 should be or will be, I really want to take some time right now to share with you my thoughts on some of the core issues that I think could really help bring Anthem out of its current state and into a better, brighter future, whether it's 2020 or even potentially 2021. Development, and especially game development, is very hard. And while I know a lot of YouTubers were really just, every time another lead would leave BioWare, would decry, Anthem is even more dead than it was before. It's so dead it died twice. It's so dead it died 3 times. I personally saw all the leadership leaving the Anthem team as a real positive for the game. Getting some hopefully fresh faces, getting some clear voices, and the right leadership in place could really empower devs to make this game what they wanted to make. The only reason why they endured such hardship within the BioWare infrastructure and with all the crap that they had to go through was because they have a passion for it. Leadership needs to get the heck out of the way and focus in on empowering the devs so they can truly make great games. That's why game developers take traditionally less payment, because they are passionate about making games. And it's unfortunate when that passion is abused by obviously greed. And hopefully we can sit here and say 2020 is a better, brighter year, not just for Anthem, but for gaming as a whole. But let me get off of that topic. That's a bigger topic for another video. And I want to sit here and focus in on what I think this game should do in 2020 to help address these core issues. Now, ultimately, whether you agree with these issues or not, with these items or not, I want to know your thoughts about what you want to see, how you want it to function. And hopefully you sound off in the comments below. We can have that conversation, because these are just my ideas. These are just my opinions. I'm not going to sit here and say Anthem needs to cater to Brian. However, I am going to say these are things that I've seen that worked in the past. And rather than inviting you to go and check out our Anthem playlist, which you're more than welcome to do, I'll include a link in the description of this video if you really want to go dive into like previous Anthem coverage, especially giving my thoughts on it. I wanted to summarize them here in 3 items, 3 core issues that Anthem 2.0 needs to address. Now, I'm going to go out on a limb, and if you've never seen any of our Anthem content, welcome to Work to Game. My name's Brian. Maybe I should introduce myself a little bit better in the intro part of this video. But I'm going to sit here and say cross-play would be absolutely fantastic for Anthem. Right now I've played it both on PC and on Xbox. Honestly, I think that as this game goes forward, anything with 2.0 needs to look at uniting the community, because when we talk about isolating, and we're going to cover this in the second section regarding the world, how it really feels to be connected to each other in this game, I think there's a lot of potential, and crossplay would be a huge step in bringing everybody together rather than having them all off on their own little isolated islands. We'll cover that more obviously in detail, because that technically isn't one of my 3 main items, but I just wanted to bring that up here. Now, on a side note, why I think there's actually hope for this game is that there is no shortage of Anthem videos out there that don't get an insane amount of views. And I'm not making this video for the views. In comparison, it's better for my channel if I just sit here and bash on Anthem. I think that's the general way, or the general function you see on YouTube right now. That's not who I am. I'm going to continue to be honest with you guys, and sometimes that puts us at odds. But when I go look at Anthem, when I have conversations with people about this game, they're upset, they're frustrated, because they think and they believe that this could truly be a great game, especially how it was originally sold to us. And deep down, even I see with people who are really mad, especially at EA and BioWare, I think deep down they would love for nothing more to see that this to become what it could or should be. Now, I could be wrong. Everybody's going to be different. You might completely want this game to fail, or you might be in love with where this game is at this moment. But I still think that one of the greatest signs of hope is that there are people who actively follow it. Whether it's good news, no news, or whatever, there's obviously people who will go and watch and engage in these videos. And that's really exciting to see, despite all of the trouble that Anthem's had up to this point. But all that aside, I'm going to focus on the first thing. We have to talk about the loot. We absolutely have to talk about the loot in this game. I'd say Anthem is a looter shooter, but the thing that it struggled with the most is the loot. And here is the core issue. While they have added in more loot with updates, and they've tweaked this and they've tweaked that, after you really hit that level cap of 30, everything is 100% RNG. Imagine going to work and getting paid just like normal, but then after 30 days of you working for this new job, you go to work after that, and then they decide based off of a dice roll if you're going to get paid. That's how RNG, random number generated progression, feels when it's 100% how you progress in the game. Obviously, you can increase the difficulty, which will increase your drop rates, but there's weird math that's always been going back in the scene, and so ultimately you could go and you can invest like multiple runs and never get the piece of gear you're looking for, and that's like going to work, and then at the end of the day they roll the dice and say, well, sorry, you're not getting paid today. Like, it's that frustrating. RNG progression is fine if it's married with some form of static progression, and I'm going to use an example from a game that I love. And that's Phantasy Star Online and Phantasy Star Online 2, which the sequel is actually coming out here in North America sometime this spring for Xbox and PC and maybe other platforms. Just putting it out there, really excited about the game. Anyway, beyond that, let's say in Anthem you're in all blues. Every time a purple drops, that is some form of progression for you. Now, when you're in all purples, you're going to be changing oranges, which are the masterworks. From oranges, you're going to chase yellows. Basically, you're looking at hunting a specific color. When that color drops, you win. When that color doesn't drop, especially if you're in all purples, all the blues that drop just kind of feel empty and somewhat even sometimes insulting, because you're like, well, I can break it down for some materials, but they're really crafting an upgrade system needed a lot of work in the first place, and it's so convoluted that it is just ultimately frustrating and ultimately forgotten. Let's just be real. Anyway, but imagine, if you will, that Phantasy Star Online example. In that game, you had a little robot friend called a mag, and you could take these drops that you didn't need and you could feed it to your mag, and he would level up and he would have different stats and he could help you out. Now, obviously, the community can get together and say, this is based off of your class, this is what you want your mag to be. I'm not asking for the mag system within Anthem, but I wouldn't mind it. I'm just going to put it out there. But let's say now you're in all purple gear, and blues drop. Imagine being able to either break down those blues or use those blues to feed your purple gear, giving it experience and ultimately allowing it, once you've done that enough, to be able to ultimately upgrade into that masterwork. And then keep repeating that process. Say you get that epic gun that you've been hunting, that masterwork gun. Well, it's got the perfect rolls for you. Imagine being able to feed it, a lot of purples. And I'm not saying like 1 or 2. I'm saying give it, something worth chasing, something worth aspirational, so that every time something drops, you can say, well, oh, awesome. That's 1/10 progress, or that's 1/100th progress, or hell, even if it's 1/1000th progress, it's still that I guess horizontal, that measured static progress that allows you not to be 100% RNG. Again, now you could be in all purples and maybe you see a legendary drop. You're going to be so freaking excited for that because it is that RNG, and that's what's exciting and addictive about that kind of system. That's why looter shooters came onto the market and really hooked players into them. Like when you look at Destiny, it's because they have that slot machine mechanic. It feeds the brains, it feeds the endorphins. It really rewards the player when that happens. And that's where Anthem has struggled. It didn't have enough of that because eventually if it just fed you, like all the best rolls, you're going to be capped and you're going to leave anyway. Ultimately, the game kind of suffered from its own weight in that perspective. So that's why I kind of saying it would be better. They don't have to make all the loot drop all the time, but everything that drops should present some value to the player. It should present some value. And that's what they have to figure out. They don't have to do this system by any stretch of the imagination. I'm just using this to illustrate it needs some value. And yeah, that's that's where we're gonna leave it in that world. And I'd love to know your thoughts about loot. Like people put a lot of work into talking about loot systems, talked about how Diablo handles it, talks about how all these other games have handled the loot system. So hopefully they spend a lot of time investing in what this game is going to mean in terms of loot and in terms of what it's going to mean for us as players. So let's go ahead and move on and actually talk about the world itself. The world in Anthem is beautiful. It's still so beautiful. Honestly, it's a shame that you don't spend enough time out in the world. You spend more time still in loading screens, and while they've made adjustments to where you can get to the forge easier and do more while playing the game, it's still not the same. When you go and look back at how E3 presented the game, like you were out in this beautiful open world and your friends could jump in and easily join you. You were seeing all kinds of things to do. They would show the stronghold on the map, like this is over here and this is over there. And then you go look at games like Destiny and The Division. Yeah, the open world was so pivotal to the experience of the player. Now, what they ended up moving to was kind of a menu system. Pick this mission, you're on this mission, go load up this mission. And then they put you out in the open world and you then fly to this mission where they have to go. Because when you go look again about that original pitch, where they have to go is just put you out into the world. Let your friends jump in and out. In fact, there should be plenty of people running around that open world that you can see, and even if you're not going to engage in or interact with them, you're still going to see them in passing, allowing them to feed the world with the world bosses and more types of that kind of content, more things that are going on, so that even after you've finished that mission, rather than going through another load screen and then through another matchmaking session, or them always arbitrarily back to the city for some reason just to continue the story, they just need to let you play in the world that they've built, and that would be so amazing. And when I say it is that if you guys or if you haven't experienced the flow, you fire up a mission, you do the matchmaking, hopefully it finds you people to play with. Most likely it won't. It really depends on your platform right now, and obviously the time of day in which you're trying to play. So you spend time trying to matchmake, eventually you go out into the mission, you run the mission, you complete it, you get all these screens about here's how you did, your javelin does its emote, and it shows you the gear that you've gotten, because the game doesn't actually show you the gear out in the open world for some unknown reason. And then you go back and you can say, I want to do another mission, or I want to go back to Fort Tarsus, or I want to go to the launch bay. No, like all of that needs to go away. They can still reward you with all this cool stuff. You can still emote, dance, and all that, but then you're still out in the world and there's still things going on. Maybe there's all these other public events that you can go and do while maybe your buddy's got to go run back to town to sell some stuff, or like he wants to continue like his story mission, but you're like, well, we've already done that. Just let us know when you're on the next step and we can all go together so that you can still run around, get some public events in, and feel like this world is alive. And that's like, the world is so beautiful and it's still so amazing to fly around in. But one of the core problems that this game really has experienced in its decline is its isolation. Just running around, not seeing anybody and having anybody to interact with can truly be an interesting and eerie experience. So hopefully more updates will continue to solve this, but we'll have to wait and see. Now, let's actually talk about the content within the game itself. And this will be pretty much the conclusion of the video, if you're wondering. Now, we started off obviously talking about the loot, and I, for one, couldn't find a reason to do the content in this game on a harder difficulty. Sure, it's going to increase my drop rate, which has better loot, which means that I can maybe tackle harder content, which might increase the drop rate so I can get better loot. But at some point, there's a cap there, and you truly feel like a badass when you're playing and flying around this content on a lower or normal difficulty, even Grandmaster 1 at the point where you're in Masterworks or higher. So why, like, why struggle? Because the loot doesn't matter. And so ultimately, because the loot doesn't matter, the content and its difficulty doesn't matter. Now, ultimately, with the Cataclysm, they added leaderboards that brought in that competition. And hopefully we can start to see more types of content like that. Not just the Cataclysm, but everything that you should be doing. Eventually, they actually brought in guilds, which are handled by the mobile app. That needs to be brought into the game. And more, you shouldn't have to like jump through so many hoops to kind of get everything together. So hopefully we'll see more of that brought in. But even the game teased plenty of this kind of content. You saw examples of a horde mode brought into the game. That would be really cool to see that. Tying back into the second point, which is the world. Lots of things should be going on. You can easily jump in and do different things. And the game should kind of encourage you to do things both on that daily, weekly, and even monthly lockout. They have parts of that. Like, there was a framework. It feels kind of very, just like the foundation was laid. And that foundation is interesting. The gameplay is interesting. It can be tighter, of course. They could really do some stuff to kind of tune that up. And hopefully they lean into the RPG, but the content itself needs to have that variety. And this brings up the big question that I ask of you guys. Should Anthem look at a 2.0 actually bringing in PvP style content? PvP content isn't for everybody. I personally like it, so I'm not going to sit here and advocate it if the community doesn't want it. But what it does do is it helps fill in gaps between PvE content. When there is, like, we're waiting for a new raid, or hopefully, for the love of goodness, they bring in many strongholds and many types of content. The strongholds were some of the best content, but even that content gets old really, really quickly. And so when you look at it, like, obviously Division and Destiny come up as two really good examples. Hopefully, if nothing else, that the team is playing those games and seeing what they like about how they deliver that content, but then doing it their own way, doing it the Anthem way to kind of fill that gap in. And you can see both of those games actually having PvP. It is important. It's not for everybody, and that might encroach on the power fantasy that Anthem is trying to achieve. And that's where things get difficult and things get challenging, because it becomes a nightmare to balance if you're going to say that these two games are the same. And that's one thing Destiny struggles with. It's fun, but you also feel it when everybody has one specific gun and you don't have it, and you feel like you just can't compete because you can't have that one gun. So, where do they go from here? Honestly, I'm rooting for them. I want Anthem to be a success. I love the lore of this game. If you guys haven't had a chance to go and experience it, there's an eerie sense of wonder that Anthem itself can capitalize on. Even its 2.0 update, it can easily be a lore reason for whatever happens and changes, even if they decide to reset the story. The fact is, it's the very fabric of reality can be called into question by the Anthem and more. And so there's a lot they can do and play around with it. And personally, I hope that they both drive a variety of content. They drive a huge lore thing. But all of that needs to be brought in with the concept of aspirational content, with also whether it's direct PvP or indirect PvP, in which that maybe players are able to compete for grounds and factions. The lore with Corvus and how everything is really shrouded in mystery, even how humans came to be where we are, is a mystery that I want to explore over the next several years with the storytelling that they have already started to deliver on. So that's where we're at. Is Anthem going to be worth it in 2020? It's a long year. I don't know when YouTube is deciding to recommend this video to you, so it will be interesting to see. By, maybe by the summer we have good news and we have a clear vision of what's going to happen. Who knows? It could really be another 12 to 18 months if they're still in the design phases about what this is going to be. The thing is, they need a plan. And the fact is, they're working on that plan. Hopefully, we're going to be taken in and become a part of that plan to be able to provide feedback at that point. And when I say we, I'm not saying Brian from Work to Game. I'm saying we as the gaming community who is either interested in this game's success or would love to see this game turn itself around like other games have done. People have said that it can't happen because it's EA. And yeah, they could easily be right. But is Anthem worth it in 2020? It depends on how much it costs for you, because $5 might mean nothing to you. And you might say, you know what, I got 10 hours to kill. Yeah, you're probably going to have a good time with the game. If you're like me and you play some of these games for an exceedingly long period of time, yeah, it might not be. It might not ever be. And that's okay. You don't have to like this game or every game out there. But yeah, I think it's going to be an interesting year. I hope that, by the end of 2020, when we're looking at it this time next year and saying, dadgum, that was awesome. I can't believe they actually turned it around. Not going to say they are, and I'm not saying that you need to jump in and spend your money on it. Only you could make that choice. I am saying that we will continue to talk about it, because I don't know. As a gamer, like, I see, and this is a double-edged sword, I see potential. I saw it with Final Fantasy XIV 1.0, and that paid off. And I'm not going to say that every time it's going to work that way, but I will say that you need to know that about me. I see the potential in things, and that potential is as exciting as the game itself, or as the moment itself. And it's not going to be the same way for everybody, and nor should it be. But I want you to know that about me so you can weigh if this is worth it for you. Well, is it? Let me know in the comments below. And yeah, we're going to be keeping a close eye on Anthem. Its testing, its updates, and more. Now, obviously, if you're new, we hope you hit that subscribe button to be kept up to date. And while you're at it, be sure to hit that like button. And just for fun, ring that bell if you are feeling brave. But anyway, and beyond that, be sure to sound off below what you like about this game, what you want to see about its future, and more in 2020. Like I said, it's a long year, and I don't know when you're watching this video, but I do thank you for doing so, and I hope to see you in my next video, whenever that might be. But for Work to Game, my name's Brian. Thank you for watching. Take care, and have a happy, amazing life. Love you. Bye-bye.